what happened over the weekend, and I talked about it a bit this morning. I'm interested to hear what the crew thinks, but back in October, I was in Phoenix. I went to Turning Point to do the show with the Turning Point crew and the Charlie Kirk Show crew. We had received a threat that I don't know if we described at the time in detail, because we often refrain from exposing some of the finer details because it will make your security worse. It will increase the threat and the risk. And the threat was to come and shoot up the place. We were in contact with the FBI. Look, like Cash and Dan have been on the show. Okay, I know these guys, right? And we got in touch directly with some great people at the FBI who said that they were working on this, and they were in touch with our crew. And they believed that it was credible because it fit a pattern of other shootings based on the information that was conveyed in it. And so I believe they're currently tracking that down. I believe I don't know what the deal is going on with it, but I think it's an open case maybe. And it's not the only one we've received. We've received a lot of veiled threats and general death threats. And then Saturday between midnight and 1 a.m., a vehicle slowly approaching the property opens fire. Then it drives past our driveway to where our studio is. 2 more shots are fired. And, the first thing everybody did was just, try to rationalize. So the first thing that happens, our security guards report shots fired. And, it's a crazy thing to hear. And we were out. We had left the show. We were going to hang out, right? We go do our stuff. We get drinks or play poker or something like that. And so I head back, and I'm like, what's going on? What happened? And then like some car was lurking around and it fired a shot or something like that. So, we have increased security. We don't exactly know what's happening at this time, but we've got armed guards, right? So in the morning, we reviewed security footage, and it's 3 clear gunshots. We don't know why, right? We could ignore everything and just say, hey, you know what? Sometimes out in the country, people Yosemite Sam, you know what I mean? They take their guns and they go, pow, pow, pow. But that's never happened before, and we've been here for 4 years. And considering the threats, considering the political climate we're in, we can look at it a bunch of different ways. I think it was targeted. I think based on the threats that we had received, I think, and escalated quite a bit in recent history in the past couple of weeks, that it was, my thoughts are intimidation. It's like that old story where they said, a guy hears a gunshot in his neighborhood and he runs out into his backyard and he sees an old man firing a gun into the ground. And he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, keeping the property taxes down. So the idea is just the shot itself can disrupt an area. It can cause serious problems with, it can cause problems with our guests. So what would this be if I'm going to do the math and it's just like a random country shooting for no reason right in front of our studio makes no sense. Intimidation makes the most sense. It's not, I wouldn't call it impossible, but I'll try to be vague on security, but it's difficult to come here with weapons because we have a security perimeter. We have armed guards. So intimidation seems to make the most sense. And I think that's what the attempt was. Yeah. And so, here we are. This is the climate we are in. There's no amount of security that can protect you from drive-by shootings. There's no amount of security. So we can have people here and, they can report our bullet-ridden corpses should something truly dark happen. But it's not like they're going to stop someone from pulling off more serious attacks. So we have to have a discussion, and we've had a discussion earlier today with the company about how we move forward. And, I'd argue that it looks bleak, but I don't think it's reflective of what we do here. I think it's reflective of the greater political climate as to why it looks bleak. I'll throw it to the crew. Just curious what you guys think about everything that's going on, and based on.
I'm just curious. Do any liberals have these problems?
No.
Do any Democrats have these problems? No. Only the conservatives have problems. We've got people killed. We got people targeted. I mean,
Well, to be fair, Josh Shapiro's house was firebombed.
I will also say Nancy Pelosi's home was raided by a guy with a hammer.
with
I
the
believe it
hammer,
was.
I thought that was a lover of somebody.
Still violence. I don't know if it was a lover's quarrel, but there is
overall,
also
It's in
violence.
California. You know.
There is violence direct. I'm sure AOC gets a ton of threats.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not, to your point. I mean, you're right. But at the end of the day, like the actual attacks. I mean, whether it be the attempts on Donald Trump's life, what happened to Charlie Kirk, Steve Scalise a few years back, the shooting at the congressional baseball game, that was intended to target Republicans. Generally, the attacks that lately have actually resulted in maimings and loss of life, they've all been attacks against Republicans, against conservatives. And whether or not you think it was actually politically motivated, was targeted, or if it was just people that knew that they don't like Tim Pool or the stuff that we do here, so they went to try to send a message, that doesn't matter, really, because at the end of the day, the next one might actually be someone that's trying to get a person, whether or not they're targeting Tim or just anyone here. That's something that's a real tangible threat now.
What's one of the first things you guys told me when I came here? No talk of political violence whatsoever. We need the leftists to start doing the same thing.
Well, we said don't make threats.
Don't make threats. Don't say. But
We said don't talk about violence.
Well, obviously, but what I'm basically trying to tell you is the Democrats will never tell that to their followers.
No,
they'll
they
never tell them slow down. Like when Charlie Kirk died, I was disgusted with all the people who were celebrating.
They either celebrated or they said that's what Charlie gets for speaking these hateful things.
Yeah,
That's the price of being.
What more could he have expected? I suppose.
And it's something that even even people in Congress. Now, I think specifically when it comes to Charlie and the assassination of Charlie Kirk, people in positions of power, they generally had the right. They sent the right message. There weren't people in Congress. There weren't notable Democrats that were saying, "Oh, this is good." But the rank and file were celebrating, first of all. And then if you look back to the summer of love, the summer of riots in 2020, there were plenty of people in Congress egging on the rioters, saying things like, "We need to be out in the streets. We need more of it." You had Kamala Harris was shilling a website that was paying for the legal defense of these people. So to your point, absolutely, there needs to be Democrats that are actually standing up and saying this is something that we disavow, and they need to do it more often, because I think that the people on the ground, they hear a totally different message than the one that the major players are playing.
I believe this is more of a symptom of the times than anything else. We live in an era of political assassinations. People feel as though they feel emboldened to take action into their own hands, and they feel as though they're justified in taking that action. It isn't only shots on the President Trump that we saw. In Japan, there was a very effective, I hate to use that word, political assassination of Shinzo Abe. I listened to Tim's show earlier today where he put it extremely succinct, but it was so morbid. It was the most effective political assassination, I think, that
of our generation
of Charlie Kirk. Because what happened following the death of Charlie Kirk, the right is in complete disarray.
Yeah. And
I think these people are emboldened by things like that.
And Turning Point has become the perpetrator of the crime in which they were the victim. That is probably one of the most terrifying things out of all of this. Charlie Kirk built an organization that registered young people to vote, convinced young people to support a populist, pro-American nationalist, all these, this big coalition. He is murdered. By all means, ask questions about by who, whatever you want to think. And today, a large portion of people believe Turning Point, the victim, is actually the perpetrator. That's how terrifying the political climate is. The left doesn't have this degree of self-sabotage. And so if you think about, not only did the left get everything they could have dreamed of from the murder of Charlie Kirk. And again, I don't know what Robinson's political affiliation is. He's got a transferee boyfriend. We'll see what the evidence shows.
So you believe the FBI story?
I'm so What does that mean? What does that mean?
Oh, what the FBI says, Tara Robinson did all that. So,
Do you believe that? I think that the evidence we have seen thus far, Occam's razor, suggests Robinson is the likely culprit. We will see what happens in the trial when evidence is presented, but there's literally no other story. Just a bunch of fucking retards on the internet saying stupid shit. And what that does is the organization that helped get Donald Trump elected, which needs to persist. You don't got to be a fan of it, but it certainly will help get individual congressional candidates elected and stop Democrats from launching new committees and putting more people in prison like Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro. Instead, it's being gutted by fucking psychopaths telling people to pull their donations. So when this organization burns to the ground or whatever the fuck happens to it, maybe they're fine. The organization that's rallying young people, causing a shift in the political leanings of a generation for the first time in history, is now in dire straits. Their leader and founder murdered, and prominent pieces of human trash are trying to destroy it. It's fucking evil. So you know what? When someone pulls in front of my property and fires on it several times, I'm sitting here looking at these vile pieces of shit and thinking to myself, for what purpose will I stick my neck out if this is what happens after Charlie Kirk is killed? Candace Owens is a fucking evil scumbag. She is a degenerate cunt. She is burning everything down, and she's gloating and smiling while she does it. And you know what you fucking told me? She has no security. She doesn't fucking deal with the shit we have to deal with. She's a piece of shit. She's making everyone else suffer. And all of these fucking conservatives out there that send me these fucking messages have no fucking balls to call her out. More and more people have started doing it. They send me these fucking messages. Good for you, Tim. Good for you, Tim. I wasn't the first person to do it. I'm not going to take credit for that. But don't fucking DM me like I did something for you as you cower, scared that she'll put you on her thumbnail and claim you benefited from Charlie Kirk's assassination, which he's doing to me right fucking now.
Yeah, that was the...
I'm fucking done with these people.
she has security, just not on the level of you.
Oh, yeah, the one fat guy you mentioned with no wall and no barrier in a suburban neighborhood with neighbors. She doesn't give two fucking shits. No one's out for her. She's lying about all of this. You told me you went to her house and she's got a 4-foot wall and one fat guy, and she doesn't give a shit about her security. Meanwhile, I get bullets fired at my fucking property, and I have to go live in the middle of nowhere. And I got fucking strangers coming up to my house in Maryland, breaking in. I got people showing up and beating up the residents who trying to live there. How the fuck am I even supposed to sell this property? And you know, it's all lies. It's all hypocrisy, and it is for the purpose of making money. And she does not live the way other people live. And she claims she liked Charlie, she loved Charlie, and she is burning everything down that he built because she is evil. She is evil. And I'll say it again, this conservative movement is fractured, it's fried, whatever it is. Okay? Republicans are on track to lose the midterms. They were actually trending in the other direction until Charlie Kirk was murdered.
Yeah.
And this is the point, isn't it? The most effective political assassination in history. And thanks to the likes of the vile cunt Candace Owens, she has turned Turning Point into the perpetrators of the crime that was against them. I don't get paid by any of these people. I'm not on good terms necessarily with Turning Point USA. They didn't invite me to their stupid event. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. They invited me back after I started criticizing Candace. I'm not going to your event. I'm over all of this shit. The last thing that I need to deal with is a bunch of cowards in conservative media refusing to stand up to her. Megyn Kelly, come on. I appreciate the kind words, but come on. Such fucking pathetic bullshit. You know, and I get people saying, Tim, you know, thank you so much for talking about it. I don't care. I'm not doing a favor for anybody. I'm not doing this to benefit anybody. Nobody's paying me. There's no fucking Russia. There's no fucking Israel. There's just me sticking my neck out and then risking dying for what? A bunch of cowards that don't want to stand up to protect themselves? People like fucking Candace Owens?
I couldn't believe that she put you in the thumbnail
What a fucking cunt.
of her piece today.
I'm done.
The idea that she'd
I'm
imply
fucking
that you had some benefit or that you benefit somehow. Like
She benefited. I think she's a Fed, and I think she killed Charlie. No one benefited more than her. And now she is, when you look at what's stopping us from winning in 2026 right now, what the biggest threat and the biggest fear we have is, it is the disarray on the right. It is the fracturing of the coalition of all the different voices that came together and stopped the neoliberal bullshit liberal economic order machine that was coming out and telling everybody to chop their dicks off and that you had to get fucking injected or get locked in your house. And here we have a coalition resisting and rejecting that. Charlie Kirk dies, and he's not perfect. He loved Israel. Some people don't like that, but he certainly did organize a movement that brought people together, that helped get Trump elected, helped Republicans win, and resisted what the Democratic Party had been doing and these psychopath institutions. I don't want to go back to COVID. Does everybody remember what that was like? When you were locked in your home, you had to wear 2 masks, and you couldn't go anywhere unless they stuck you in the arm. And the only resistance we had was these feckless loser Republicans who've got nothing done over the past year. And now Charlie Kirk was murdered. And we say, holy crap, what do we do? How do we keep things together? And Candace, with a smile on her face, and Ian Carroll and all the rest of them say, Turning Point did it to themselves. They destroyed themselves. Pull your donations because they work for Israel. Even Nick Fuentes calling it out, saying this is psychotic. So when we lose in the midterms and the Democrats bring back their panels and their subpoenas and they start arresting people like they had already done in the past 4 years, and then we get whatever the equivalent of lockdowns is going to be, and you get President Gavin Newsom, you can mark it all back to this moment when you had evil stand, scream, and cowards refuse to do anything.
With all due respect, always every single president loses in midterms.
And guess what?
Every single one.
The prediction markets showed that it was near 50-50 based on the political swing that we had seen. Gen Z, the first generation in 100 years to tick slightly rightward in some areas, not all, but some. And this was a big moment because while they were very similar to millennials, they were slightly more conservative in some areas. And we saw that in the past couple of years, Gen Z was actually skewing away from LGBTQIA issues. How is this happening? It is not only nor solely, but largely Charlie Kirk and his work with Turning Point. And so Turning Point certainly has its issues, but there's literally no reason to burn it to the ground. Unless, of course, it makes you famous and rich, you know? So I guess by all means, my issue right now is
people are shooting at you. That's obviously your
certainly,
issue. 100%. But we lost Charlie Kirk. You're thinking about, taking off in the sunset. Who we got left? So Charlie's gone.
Candace Owens. Congratulations.
Okay, we got Candace Owens too.
Good. So you can spin around with your dick in your hand while you sound like a retard to the average person, and then Democrats win.
I mean, but you're taking off.
Yeah, you know why? Because people are not. When I get private texts and messages saying like, "Oh yeah, I agree with you, but I would never dare say anything," I'm like, I'm not doing this. My whole life, I have had a disdain for those who demand others work for them. Now, I hold on for a minute. Like, I understand we all work for each other. I'm saying, I remember when I was younger, I was like, we're in Chicago, I skateboard, but there's nowhere to skate in the winter. So what do we do? Well, holy crap, I figured something out. If 10 of my friends come together and put $100 down every month, we can actually rent a warehouse. And you know what they all said? You do it and then let me know and I'll think about it.
Yep.
And that's the world, and that's what people do. So when people message me saying I wouldn't dare speak up against Candace, I'm just like, oh, fuck off, dude. Coward. But to the people that have started speaking out, calling her out, good. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter in the end. It doesn't really matter in the end. She can say whatever she wants. She can do whatever wackaloon shows she wants. The fact that she put me on her thumbnail today, titled "Who Benefited from Charlie Kirk's Death," whether she's retarded, I don't think she is, or doing it intentionally, it doesn't matter. The message is clear. You speak up against her, and she will sick people on you. Is that the purpose?
That was the
I
whole
called
point.
her out.
Yeah, absolutely, that was the point. The reason she put you on the thumbnail was because you had the audacity to call her out. It was
and no one else would, and people don't, and so many people don't. Like when Ben Shapiro was on with Megyn Kelly, and Megyn Kelly deferred and then said, well, I don't know, well, and demurred, and then later came out and said, Candace never said that. It's like, you know what, man? She can say every which way a million times, but never directly say it for plausible deniability. Yep. As if we're retarded. It's what a stupid world to live in. So listen, it's not just about her. She comes up because she, I guess there it is. She put me on her thumbnail. She's a piece of trash, and we have death threats against us consistently. For too long, we don't talk about it. Now, the problem is the one thing we talked about in October was, I think we're one of the few shows that actually invites the public to come. Not like literally anyone in the public, but we probably send out address, location 5 times a day to various people who are booking on this show. Well, for that, we are more likely to get doxxed. I don't know how we continue doing a show like this. I don't know how we do it. And that's the conversation we were having earlier. So it's possible the 19th is the last Timcast IRL. I'm not going to stop doing content, but the general thought is if I only do a solo VOD show like I used to before we did IRL, then there's no other guests, there's undisclosed location, and I can do the show from a camper in the middle of the desert with Starlink, if that's the case. Right now, the issue is people are coming to our properties, and even property that we had hidden. This is what people don't get. I'll talk to somebody, and the first thing they always say is, well, what you got to do to hide your property, stop. Do you think we've not done that? We've literally done that for all of our properties, and they still get doxxed. Maybe because it's the feds. I don't know. I don't know how they find some of these locations. We put them in trusts. We put them in LLCs. We put them in other people's names or whatever. And whatever legal means you have to obfuscate. And somehow we get swatted. Somehow people are showing up. Packages are being left on. And it's just, okay. So I don't know how we navigate this. But I will say this. The threat has never been more real. And we had to cancel Booney's skate night. There's no way we can invite 50 to 100 people to come for a big skateboarding event. We can't vet. We can't protect ourselves against targeted drive-by shootings or if this really does escalate to a more serious degree. So I don't know if there is an answer. And this is the plain reality of the country that we are living in right now. I want to go to have a meetup event. We want to say like, hey guys, come hang out with us. This is what we did on Saturday. I have to have a security guard come with me to the bathroom. And I'm not unique in that. But a lot of people live that way. More famous and wealthier people than I. What an insane way to live.
But that's the profession you chose. You worked hard, you became number one. When you're number one in anything, you're going to be a target for a whole bunch of people. It is what it is. This is the society we live in.
Well, you know what the issue is? Back in the day, when you were at this level of political influence, you could afford security. But the issue now is, I would argue that maybe, I don't know what number I gave earlier today, but I was like, maybe 80% of the content we produce is not seen on our platforms with our advertisers and our members. It's clipped and redistributed through massive networks, which all make money off the content we produce, and we can't get that money. So we have the influence that reaches 50 million people, and half of them want to murder me, but we don't have the 10 million viewers per night that would afford us the ability to have a secure facility. And you look at Fox News, and they have a big skyscraper in New York. They've got security guards. You can't even get in that building. You can't get anywhere near those studios, and the glass is probably bulletproof. That's Fox News with carriage fees and big cable networks and, I guess, long-standing position in the market with billions of dollars and probably an endowment that generates money. We don't have that.
Well, listen, just my advice. I'm from Miami, Florida. And I got doxxed, and after I got doxxed and I got swatted, I did two things. Number one, I moved into a high-rise with security. Number two, I got to be good friends with the mayor to make sure something like that didn't happen again. So there are options. There are options. Obviously, you're at a whole different level. But listen, if you get a penthouse in some place in Miami or they say Sunny Isles or someplace in Florida where you have real top-notch security, like the Porsche Tower in Sunny Isles, you cannot get in that building. It's literally the FBI guarding that building.
That's a good point.
So if I were you, you work too freaking hard to build what you got to give up. Change locations, adapt or die. Again, you adapt in this world or you die. And what I'm basically trying to tell you is move to a better location and do this 10 times harder. The people who fucking did this to you say, fuck you.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.